There's a reason why we can't sell F-250s in Europe. It is because the roads are smaller. You would not be able to drive an F-250 or an F-150 for that matter. Or really, almost any one of every single pickup truck that is made in America.
MAGA idiot Dave Rubin is saying typically idiotic Dave Rubin things, this time about Donald Trump's economy. Sam Seder, who has ridiculed Dave Rubin online for years, broke all this down. We're going to take a look at clips from Dave Rubin's show, from Sam Seder's show, The Majority Report. I have my thoughts to share about this as well. This is a good one. Let's check it out together.
Our perspective has always been here is that tariffs in and of themselves, they're just a tool. And they're a tool to achieve an agenda. And generally, the way that tariffs are generally used, at least in modern times, as a mechanism in which to shield or build a domestic industry. Or maybe not even an industry, a specific, an industry. I would go that narrow. So like we want to make sure that we are producing enough steel in this country. We want to make sure that we're producing semiconductors. Or we realized during COVID that we have a problem in semiconductors. If China shuts down, we're going to have no semiconductors, or we're not going to have any chips, and we're going to have no cars, and we're not going to have computers. And so we need to build that industry here. And so we will put tariffs on products like that coming into this country. But on the other hand, we'll also incentivize and build factories, like give money to build factories. Now, of course, the way you would sequence that would be, we have a plan to build factories, to train workers to make this stuff, or whatever is involved. We're going to institute that plan. And it's going to take 6 months to a year, 2 years to get those factories built. And then we're going to put the squeeze on these products coming in so that this industry happens. Or maybe we roll it out a little bit. I mean, it's obvious how you sequence these things. The Trump administration didn't do any of that. It's not even clear what the goal is to any of this. But here to explain it to you, because none of us have the sort of the brain capacity to understand this. We need to bring in an expert, someone whose keen mind and love of ideas is able to wrap their heads around this and explain the one dynamic that you don't realize. If tariffs are so bad, why do they exist?
If tariffs are so bad, then why do they have them? So it might not be that tariffs are inherently horrible. Tariffs are horrible when you are on the receiving side of the bad end of the tariff. Trump is trying to tariff so we can eliminate tariffs. And we just told you what's happening in Vietnam and Argentina and Israel and Italy and a couple other countries, and apparently 50 other countries and the European Union that are now coming back to the table. So there's few people that are arguing for tariffs for the sake of tariffs. Yes, I want more tariffs, and I want them to tariff more and them to tariff more in the world.
We should say that all the reporting that is available says that these people are willing to negotiate, these different countries. Obviously, China has just levied a 104% reciprocal tariff against this. Canada has levied a tariff. But there are other countries that are interested in negotiating, the Philippines, several others, that are basically saying, like, we're calling, but nobody's answering the phone.
I want to do the tariffs instead.
Dave is a smart guy, but I just like tariffs. I like tariffs. I've always liked tariffs. I want to read this quote that's going around from, I think it was a piece written about Gary Cohn. Gary Cohn was under the first Trump administration. Cohn was a Treasury, right? Or was he wasn't Commerce Secretary. I think it was Treasury. He was one of the early ones to leave the administration, I think. And this is a retelling of what Cohn said to Donald Trump. Why don't we manufacture things at home? Lindsay asked. We're a manufacturing country. I'm not sure who that refers to. But of course, the United States manufactured things, but reality did not match the vision in Trump's mind. The president clung to an outdated view of America: locomotives, factories with huge smokestacks, workers busy on assembly lines. Cohn assembled every piece of economic data available to show that American workers did not aspire to work in assembly factories. Each month, Cohn brought Trump the latest job openings in labor turnover survey called JOLTS, conducted by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. He realized he was being an a-hole by rubbing it in because each month was basically the same, but he didn't care. Mr. President, can I show this to you? Cohn fanned out the pages of data in front of the president. See, the biggest levers of levers, people who leave, of jobs, people leaving voluntarily, was from manufacturing. I don't get it, Trump said. Cohn tried to explain. I can sit in a nice office with air conditioning and a desk, or stand on my feet 8 hours a day. Which would you do for the same pay? Cohn added, people don't want to stand in front of a 2,000-degree blast furnace. People don't want to go into coal mines and get black lung. For the same dollars or equal dollars, they're going to choose to do something else. Trump wasn't buying it. Several times, Cohn just asked the president, why do you have these views? I just do. Trump replied, I've had these views for 30 years. Well, that doesn't mean they're right, Cohn said. I had the view for 15 years. I could play professional football. It doesn't mean I was right.
Just yesterday, Donald Trump had coal miners from West Virginia and West Virginia Governor Jim Justice at the White House, and Trump was saying how they just want to dig coal. He said you could put a coal miner in a penthouse in New York City and give them a different job, and they would just say, nope, I want to dig coal. This is a great summation of Trump. Someone talks to him in a sensible way, and Donald Trump just says, nope, I don't agree, just be based on what he feels.
He was the chief economic advisor. I guess he wasn't, he was head of, the National Council of... All right, let's go back to Dave Rubin.
And Israel and Italy and a couple other countries, and apparently 50 other countries, and the European Union that are now coming back to the table. So there's few people that are arguing for tariffs for the sake of tariffs. Yes, I want more tariffs, and I want them to tariff more and them to tariff more, and then we're all going to pay more for everything. I'm not really hearing much of that argument. But if tariffs are bad, then why do they all do it? So you might understand why the markets are struggling right now, because Trump is trying to even the playing field. I think I used this analogy last week. You ever play Monopoly when you're a kid?
Oh, pause it. Before we go into his dumb argument about evening the playing field, let's be clear. They're not even, the tariffs that we're imposing on these other countries are not even one-to-one on the tariffs that other countries have. There's a reason why we can't sell F-250s in Europe. It is because the roads are smaller. You would not be able to drive an F-250 or an F-150 for that matter, or really almost any one of every single pickup truck that is made in America, short of maybe an old Ford Ranger.
Driving a Cybertruck in Bruges.
You cannot drive through these cities in Europe. The roads are just too small. But that is factored into the tariff that we levy on them, because they consider that a non-tariff trade barrier. And there's a whole host of things like that that are encountered in this. And so we're not even putting reciprocal tariffs on them. But Rubin doesn't understand, because Rubin doesn't care. I mean, he's just trying to justify this.
Well, you haven't let him do his metaphor yet.
Okay, but here's his metaphor. And this metaphor is to explain how you even things out.
This analogy last week. You ever play Monopoly when you're a kid and you're playing Monopoly, you got a couple friends around the Monopoly board, and somehow the guy who's also the banker always has a little more cash than everybody. He can somehow buy all those hotels on Baltic Avenue and turn it into Atlantic Avenue.
Who in this analogy is the guy who has access to more cash than anybody else? Who is that? if the monopoly board and all the players are the world, who is the guy who has the most cash? I mean, it's America, right? Is that what it's? So that guy is America. I'm just trying to figure out the analogy here.
I mean, Monopoly, a game, very consciously an analogy itself of monopoly capitalism. So it's hard to sort of say, well, it's other countries and it's about tariffs. No, they were showing how capitalism works.
Okay, but put aside what the actual game is, because it's not that deep of it's really just about a game for him. He doesn't understand what Monopoly is about. He hasn't made that connection. But there's somebody who has control of the bank. That would be, who controls the world currency?
Well, Singapore, clearly.
It's the United States. All right, so let's just go back and follow this. The United States is the one who controls the world's currency. Go ahead.
So the banker always has a little more cash than everybody. He can somehow buy all those hotels on Baltic Avenue and turn it into Atlantic Avenue. And then you start realizing, oh, every time I turn around or pee, this guy's taking a little cash. That's basically what's been happening here. And then what happens? Then you throw the board, you hit him with it, you force some of those hotels down his throat. We've all been there. That's what's been going on here. So unless you want Trump to do that to you, come to the table, people. Rumble Premium, and then more on just the general state of lunacy.
So he doesn't realize in his own analogy that we're the one who's getting hit with the board.
And the reason that they keep the money is that we're buying their things. It's not some sneaky,
Somebody on the IM said, obviously, the banker in this metaphor is naturally transgender athletes. Right. Of course.
And Sam Seder's exactly right about this. And what a stupid analogy by Dave Rubin. All the people on the right are trying to spin this and logic pretzel it and do mental gymnastics to justify the fact that Donald Trump is an idiot. Like Sam Seder said, talking about trying to sell F-150s or F-250s Ford pickup trucks in Europe. Just the other day in the Oval Office, Trump was talking about how Japan sells millions of cars to us, but buys very few of our cars. What cars do we have to sell to Japan? Everything that we make is large, outside of just a small handful of vehicles. The United States now makes SUVs. A lot of them are large and big pickup trucks. We don't make small cars anymore. Very, very few small cars. So these other countries have no need for our vehicles. Sam Seder brought up the Philippines. The average annual salary in U.S. dollars in the Philippines is less than $8,000. It's about $7,700. How much can the Philippines buy from us? How much of our goods can they afford to buy? And with Donald Trump saying, well, Japan sells us all of these cars and they won't buy any of ours, do countries have to buy products that don't meet their needs or even their standards or their laws? One of the talking points that they're throwing out, Lutnick was talking about this the other day, and other right-wingers have said the same. Well, Europe and these other countries won't buy our beef. Well, if our beef doesn't meet their standards, do they have to buy it? If another country made paint with lead in it, a country that we're trading with, do we have to buy their lead paint, even though it's banned in the United States? It's all just so stupid. But we saw Trump pause most of the tariffs for 90 days. So what happens now with all the MAGA idiots like Dave Rubin? Now do they, after they've been praising tariffs, now do they say, oh, well, tariffs, 90 days, it doesn't really matter, blah, blah, blah. I mean, they're going to spin on a dime, I'm sure. But it's all so stupid. Dave Rubin's analogy makes no sense, as Sam Seder and Matt Leck pointed out here. But let me know in the comments what you think about this. Do you agree with Sam Seder, the points that he's making about tariffs, or could Dave Rubin actually be right about this? I don't see how, but let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. I'm Chris on Culture, and I will see you in the next video.